another week, another thrilling, captivating version of Real Talk. Keeping it real is Pastor Aaron Fleming, and my name is Steve Shetler. Thanks for joining us this evening. Aaron, what are we going to be talking about today?
I don't know, Steve. You kind of froze me with this whole captivating and thrilling thing. I feel a lot of pressure right now. But I think I can recover.
All right.
Let's talk about calling today.
Hang on. Wait a minute. Oh, hello? Hello?
Not that kind of calling, Steve.
My bad. That was our attempt at humor. Thank you. We'll be here all week. So not that type of calling. Well, then what the heck? What kind of calling you talking about?
Maybe our calling is not in comedy.
We're not a comedy duo.
That could be. Also, who likes to talk on the phone anymore?
Yeah. Not me.
Not.
Text me.
Yeah,
Message
text
me.
Well, so we weren't talking about that kind of calling. I want to go back to last week for just a moment, though.
Okay.
Because last week we were talking about motivation and what are sources of motivation that actually get us over the hump. Okay. It's still a new year. What is today? Today's January 15th, right?
Yes.
So today's January 15th, and maybe you're still hanging in there strong with the New Year's resolution. Maybe you're not. Maybe you didn't even start. But motivation is just super important. Motivation is basically energy for change. And without motivation, we just don't do a whole lot of changing, do we?
Yep.
Just
sit on the couch.
Sit on the couch. And man, it's easier to sit on the couch now than ever before, isn't it?
It is. You got 3 trillion channels and streaming apps and your phone in front of your face and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah. Get a laptop in there. Laptop, phone, television, maybe 2 televisions. You can be operating 4 screens at once. And then you don't need to move for anything other than
bathroom break,
food.
Have an Uber bring your food to you if you're in a big enough town.
Have you trained your dogs to bring you stuff from the fridge yet?
They would eat it on the way back, so no.
Your dogs just don't have any self-control, do they? Bad dog. Okay, but seriously, motivation, and I wanna talk about my favorite book in the Bible.
Okay.
Some of our listeners may not be aware that you're allowed to have a favorite book in the Bible. Like, wait, the Bible, isn't that the Word of God? Aren't you supposed to read the whole Bible? Well, I mean, yeah, you should probably read the whole Bible. But what I've discovered over the years is that everybody has some parts of the Bible that you really connect with. And it depends from person to person. I've noticed guys who are like into engineering and mechanics and stuff like that. They all love the book of Nehemiah. All of them. Because the book of Nehemiah is about building a wall. Mm-hmm. And so engineers are like, oh, yeah, that's really cool. And some of us are not.
I once was like the guest speaker at a church one time, and I was talking about this subject, and I said that some of the Bible was kind of boring. And there were gasps in the crowd. They couldn't believe that somebody said something like that, but yeah, I mean, some of it's kind of boring to me.
In a way.
They get, because like into the specifics of like the Ark of the Covenant and all, it's, yeah.
I recently had a friend text me as he was beginning the book of Numbers. And if you're not familiar with the Bible, the book of Numbers just starts off with like 4 chapters of, you guessed it, numbers. Numbers. It's like, and in this tribe there were this many thousand people, and this dude had a family and he had this many relatives, and then there was this other family and they had this many relatives, and if you add up to 2 families, that's a total of this many relatives. And wow, it goes on and on and on. So my friend messaged me and he's like, is there anything meaningful in this book? I thought, well, keep going. Yeah. Occasionally, let's be honest, since this is real talk, sometimes reading the Bible can be like digging for gold.
Yep.
You move a lot of dirt before you find a nugget.
Yeah.
But that nugget
yes.
is pretty valuable.
Yes.
So for those of you who need a word of encouragement, to get into the Word of God, keep moving that dirt. You will find gems at the end of the day. So anyway, my favorite book is the book of 1 Samuel.
Okay.
And part of it is triumph and victory. And there's also a lot of failure. And I'm not saying I like failure, but who hasn't failed?
Yeah, it's just the way it is.
Maybe I'm a little dramatic. Maybe it's a storytelling flair that I like, but I do enjoy a good tragedy every now and again. And I enjoy observing other people fail so that I can learn from them. I prefer not to fail myself.
But you got to hit those valleys before you hit the next peak.
Valleys and peaks. So in the book of 1 Samuel, we're taking a long time to get around to our topic today.
It's all right.
That's all right.
We got all the time we want.
What I really want to talk about is the idea of calling. Maybe everyone has heard of calling. Maybe you haven't heard of calling. But calling, I think the idea of calling and the word that we use for it actually comes from the book of 1 Samuel, because there's a story where the main character, Samuel, see the connection there?
Sam.
The book of Samuel, a character named Samuel. So Samuel is lying in bed at night, and he audibly hears the voice of God call out to him, Samuel. Why do we think that God has a deep voice?
Hi, Samuel. You think that's the voice?
No, that doesn't sound right either. Let's stick with the traditional Samuel. And so he jumps up out of bed and runs to the priest, because he lives at the temple, and he says, hey, Mr. Priest, I heard you calling me. And the old man says, no, so maybe God, if God sounds like Eli the priest, maybe God sounds like an old man. I don't know. Samuel. Steve, you didn't invite me on your show to blaspheme and get you in trouble.
We're just guessing.
We're guessing, and it's a little silly, but I think we're okay. So several times God calls out, Samuel, Samuel. And finally, the priest helps Samuel figure out that it's God calling to him. And then as a result of that, Samuel becomes a prophet. Because when God audibly calls to you and gives you messages for other people, then your job apparently is to be a prophet. So from that story, we get the idea of calling. And then we spend a lot of time wondering, what is my calling? What is my calling in life? And most people don't get an audible voice from God. It can happen. But the reason that I want to talk about calling, see, this all ties back. It does. It all ties back to motivation. When you do have a feeling that God has called you to something in life, it's motivating.
Yeah.
That was a long story to get to that. When you have a calling in life, you have motivation because you know where you're going and what you're doing. And yes, that's going to lead to obstacles, hurdles to go over, streams to cross, mountains to climb. But at least you know where you're going. And man, there's not a whole lot more demotivating than being lost.
Mm-hmm.
You have done some running in the past, right? You did a few half marathons.
Yep, several 5Ks, a handful of half marathons. So,
did you ever go out on country roads for your training?
Sure. Yeah. You can, those half marathon training times. Yeah, you have to go out in the middle of nowhere.
And did you ever get lost?
I don't think we ever got lost. It was always kind of on a road that we knew, and we just turned around and came back the same way. So no.
Okay, the old out and back trick. That's almost always works. But let me tell you a story. My family was camping. That's 8 or 9 years ago. We were camping in rural Mississippi.
Okay.
South of Vicksburg, about 20 miles. And our son was quite the running enthusiast at the time. And he was logging 45 or 50 miles a week.
Wow.
So he was running every day, even on vacation. So we're down in Mississippi, which, my apologies to people from Mississippi, but us Yankees can sometimes feel a little nervous down south because, like, I don't know. I didn't want to say it or sing it, but no, like you're in a different place, and
Yeah.
hey, if you're from the south and you feel nervous up north, say hi to us in the comments and say, yeah, you guys are creepy up there. So maybe it goes both ways. Anyway, we're in this rural place, and David said, I'm going to go run for about an hour. So his plan was to go out for 30 minutes, turn around, and come back. About an hour and 20 minutes later, no David.
Yeah.
And so we were getting worried, and not really that, he was being abducted or something like that, but just, you're in a strange place and you're worried about your kid.
Yeah.
And I was about to get in the van to go look for him when he showed back up. And here's what happened. He had his water bottle with him. He went out 30 minutes. He stopped and turned around 180 degrees. Took a drink of water and turned around 180 degrees and started running again.
Oh, man.
So another half hour later, he's like, I don't think I recognize where I am. I'm not getting back to the place that I started. So what do you do in that situation? Well, of course, you just flag down a passing Mississippian. And it turns out Southern hospitality, that's a real thing. Like, here we are all nervous about being in Mississippi. And the guy's like, oh, yeah, I'm going right by your campground. I'll take you. So David jumps in a pickup truck with a stranger, 15-year-old kid, and hitches a ride back to the campground. And everything was okay.
Okay.
But man, nothing is as frightening and demotivating on a run as not knowing where you are.
Sure. Yeah.
And I've had that happen a couple of times. Another story. I was in pretty poor shape at one point in life. I was about 26 years old, and my dad was faster than me at that time.
Okay.
So that's always rough when your aged father can run faster than you. I think last episode I mentioned truck driving and how I had gained some weight, and so I was not in real great shape. So my dad said, hey, Aaron, there's this 5K up in Iowa City. Let's go run this 5K. And I said, well, okay. I had run 2 miles, and a 5K is only 3, so I thought I could stagger through this and maybe stay close to my dad. No, I could not stay close to my dad. And there was a 5-mile race on the same course, and I missed the turnoff.
Oh, no. Yep.
I missed the 5K turnoff and went the AK route. And you think Ks are not very long, right? There's barely half a mile, but 3 extra Ks.
Yeah.
Oh. As soon as I figured out that I was lost and that I had taken a wrong turn, my motivation dropped through the floor. All of that to say, Steve, coming back around, when you have an idea of your calling in life, it's just easier to be motivated. I think that's all there is to it. To overcome obstacles, to do the things that you need to do. When you don't have a target, it's really easy to hit nothing. When you do have a target, it's a lot easier to move forward. So I think in the coming weeks, we'll explore 1 Samuel a little bit. And the first thing before we go today, I want to say that a lot of us get in our minds this idea that having a calling means either you're going to be a preacher or a missionary. And then if you're not one of those things, either you feel guilty that you're not a preacher or a missionary. Right? You're not exactly a preacher. You're a worship leader, right?
Yes. Yep.
Does that feel like a calling?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So there's another, but that's still in the church, right? Mm-hmm. Do you feel like you have a calling to change media?
I wouldn't have thought that, but on my current path, sure.
And I want to wrap up with that, because that's a perfect illustration of how calling is a lifelong journey. And you kind of start with what you know, and you move forward. You say, I think this is my purpose in life, But you can get to your mid 40s like Steve and have a sudden career change. Mid 40s ish.
I was going to say, you're doing me a favor. Maybe 50.
Maybe 51 ish. And all of a sudden you have a career change and you're doing something you never thought of before that is breaking new ground and going to new places and doing new things in new ways. And so your calling, friends, is almost never going to be something that you get at the age of 6 and you just have this single-minded, one-track life. So forget about all that. Quit worrying about it. And but just focus on the thing that's in front of you right now. What is God asking me to do today? And you start figuring it out from there. It gives you some purpose and some direction. And so, hey, if you feel like you have a calling in life other than being a preacher or a missionary or, something classic church kind of thing, would you please say in the comments, let us know what you think your calling is, or if you've got a question about calling, how do I find out what my calling is, anything like that. Give us a question and we'll try to answer it next week. But it's been great to be with you. Good to be with you, Steve. We always have a good time.
Yes.
And we'll see you again soon.
All right. That is Real Talk with Aaron and Steve here on Steve Shuttler Media.